Welcome back guys on my YouTube channel. Today I'm gonna teach you how to install the Rebel X Sports Rally Kit on this Husqvarna FE 450 2021 model. Many of you have asked me in the bike builds video that they wanted to see actually how it is to build a rally bike. So this was the perfect occasion since I'm building Pierpaolo's bike for the Del Swank Rally. With no further ado, I'll first show you what comes in the box and the tools we need in order to apply the rally kit. First of all, I'll show you what comes in the kit. It's a plug and play kit and I'm particularly proud of it because this kit features a patented product, a product I designed and patented, which is the frame clamp. It's a plug and play system, very easy to install, but all the kit is really straightforward to apply on the bike. It comes pre-assembled, but most of all, it was designed with Dakar in mind. So even if many use it for adventure riding, there are some features that are really useful, like the fact that potentially I could install the kit with only these two set of tools, which are tools that at Dakar we always carry with us, either on the toolbox on the bash plate or with us. This means that if we need to change a part in case we crash at night, and you know I race small moto at Dakar, so I race by myself and time is really fundamental for me. I need to be very quick working on the bike, and with this system we'll easily manage to change any part that is broken or bent. We won't need to drill anything on the bike, we simply will need to drill a set of holes on the fairing side panels in fiberglass. So I recommend you use a 6mm drill bit to drill the holes for the windshield on the fairing side panels, and the 7mm to drill the hole for the diffuse fastener. Then we will need a set of Allen keys, and I'll use this T-bar with the 8mm, 13mm and 10mm sockets. And then simply to help myself a bit more and make the job easier, I'll also have a 13, a 10 and 8mm wrenches. One of the reasons for which this kit is made in aluminium is because in case of a huge crash, we'll be able to finish the stage. Some prefer carbon, but carbon, either you're a factory team or a rider with a huge budget and you can afford several carbon towers, or aluminum is better because in a big crash we can bend back the brackets and get to the end of the stage with no issue. One also useful feature is the fact that the wiring is plug and play, is included in the kit, because I know many have headaches when it's time to wire stuff on the bike. Looking at all the parts, we have the main power wire, the lights wire, the two LED 10-watt lights, the headlight mask, the windshield, Roadbook bracket with tripmaster bracket, the frame brackets, then we have the windshield brackets and the headlight brackets, all the diffuse fastener and bolts. Then we have the main tower body, and we have two extra adjustment brackets. These brackets are in case you're using some particular hand guards and you're touching against the Roadbook, you can swap these and your Roadbook will be raised higher and you will have no problem of handguards touching against the Roadbook. Lastly, we have the two fiberglass side panels. But now let me show you how to take down the OEM parts from the FE 450, and let's start installing the tower. First thing we will want to do is to loosen and take off the tensioner. We loosen the two bolts with an 8mm socket wrench. You take it off, and for now we'll leave it down here. Second thing we will do, we will remove the headlight. Unclip these rubber bands and pull up the headlight. We will want to take out the connector. After this, we will remove the headlight by pressing the front white part and making the brake cable line come out. Here it comes off. Once we remove the headlight, with the Rebel X Sports wiring harness, we have the same connector that plugs in the OEM light connector on the bike, and then on the other end we'll plug these two connectors in the two LED lights. Once again, we have two 8mm bolts. Once we've taken out the bolts, we simply move the OEM dashboard forward so that it unclips from the lower bracket. and then we can immediately reinstall the 2 bolts because the OEM dashboard will be kept in its original position. Now we will need to start removing all the connectors. So some of them we will need to unplug and then plug back in order to remove this black plastic bracket. Here, where all the wires are held, we just unclip it and you can see most of the wires come out. Clearly, we will need a cutter or some scissors to remove a few zip ties that are placed on the wires. To remove these connectors, for sure, if you use a screwdriver, it will help you rather than pulling them and taking them out with your fingers, but then we won't need a screwdriver to install them on the kit. Bracket now is off, we can put it aside, we won't need to use it again. We will leave all the wires loose and we will fix them as a last step once all the kit is installed. Moving on the other side of the frame, we will need to remove this black plastic protector. You can then either cut it if you want, or you can even leave it on and nothing will happen. For now, we move it a bit back because we will utilize these 2 holes in the frame in order to put our frame clamp. We now take the 2 frame brackets and we start from the left-hand side. We place the bracket in this way and you check that it aligns with the 2 holes, and then we take the 2 black bolts with a washer and we make it go straight through the frame all the way onto the other side. We then move on to the other side with the right-hand side frame bracket. We place the bracket under the wires. We push with our hand the 2 bolts that are on the other side so that everything aligns together. Once the 2 bolts have gone through even the right-hand side bracket, we put the nuts, but we keep them loose. We just let it thread a bit, and now the bracket is loose and we can move it so that we can open the 2 brackets and place the frame clamp. To make your life a bit easier, we will remove the 3 bolts that are on the clamp and we will remove the whole clamp by removing the 3 main tower body bolts. We get the CNC machined frame clamp, we slot it in, be careful not to catch the clutch wire, and now we're ready to put through the 3 M8 bolts and nuts. We will put the nuts just by hand, put them in position as much as we can tighten them by hand. Later we will properly tighten them. Now we are ready to install the main tower body. I'm leaving everything loose at the moment because then when we start tightening it, we will check that the tower is perfectly straight on the whole frame of the bike. We move the tower body onto the CNC machine frame clamp. We start putting the bolts through. Be aware that there is one of these bolts that is longer, so be careful not to mix them around when you're taking them off in order to install the frame clamp. Clearly the longer M8 bolt goes on the top hole because it's keeping in position also the Roadbook bracket adjuster. We place the nuts and in this case we will tighten them properly. 5mm Allen key and 13mm socket. You tighten as much as you want. People ask me most of the time what torque value they should put, and for me it's simply in this case, because if you are rally racing and you are at the bivouac and you have to work on your bike or you're having any issues on the track, you won't have a torque wrench with you, so it would be pointless for me to tell you what torque value to tighten the bolts. Just you need to feel it by hand, but trust me, you can tighten a lot these bolts because they're M8. Also, if you're using a simple Allen key set, there is just as much that you can tighten because you don't have a long lever to pull. Now we take the 6mm Allen key and again the 13mm socket and we start tightening the main frame brackets against the frame clamp. Now that the main tower body and CNC machine frame clamp is all tightened, we'll start tightening the brackets on the frame. But while we are doing this, it's important that you push the whole tower against the frame because there is slightly a bit of play, and to me it's always better to make it stick the upper part against the frame. Obviously if you have a friend pushing the tower against the frame is better, but you can do it by yourself. You just go on the other side of the bike with your body, you push it against the frame and start tightening the upper bolt. Once you have tightened the upper bolt of the frame brackets, there will be no play, and then you can move on to the lower bolt. While you're tightening the frame brackets, don't worry if you feel that the bracket looks almost like it's deforming a bit. This is supposed to happen. This was made on purpose so that when the bracket goes nicely around the frame and slightly bends, then it will be very, very firm, and you can go to the motocross track and hit huge jumps without worrying about the tower falling off. Now that both frame bolts are tightened, you see the black plastic. Either we can just cut this section, or we can just leave it like this, nothing will happen, and even the bolt coming out, it will just keep all the wire in position and it won't fall out. Just leave it there. I do it this way on all the bike builds I do. Just if you want to make it look slightly nicer, you can cut these two inner parts of the black plastic. Now that I cut the inner part of the plastic, you see it is nice and stays in position. It doesn't move, doesn't go anywhere, and keeps our wire tidy. We are now ready to install back the tensioner. We'll place it in position and get the OEM bolts and start placing them on. This you won't need to tighten too much. Probably my advice is you add a bit of thread lock and just tighten it when you feel that the bolt is not going anywhere. It's now time to place the Roadbook bracket. In this case, we have a MIG-Tech Roadbook holder that we will put on Pierpaolo's bike, but there are brackets also for the MD F2R RB850 and also the Aurora Roadbook holder. We have 3 spacers in the middle, but we have 4 holes. This is because eventually if you want a different tilt angle, you can move one of the spacers, the one that's back here, you can move it here on the front so that it can tilt even more. This gives you really a wide variety of position for your Roadbook holder. We get the 3 bolts, make them go through. With a 4mm Allen key and a 10mm socket, I'm gonna tighten only the upper bolt because I will want to then adjust my Roadbook holder after when the fairing is on and everything is on. So for this reason, I'll only tighten this upper bolt so that I will be able to still move the tilt angle of the Roadbook. Time to place the windshield brackets. The bolt will go through the 2 brackets. Even in this case, we will use 4mm Allen key and 10mm socket, and we'll tighten only the upper bolt because we can adjust the windshield, and depending on how the side panels then fit, we will adjust the inclination of the windshield. It's time for the LED lights bracket. We'll place them across here and put the nut and washer. What you will notice is that there are several brackets, and it's not just a case the tower is designed this way. This is a rally racing tower, also used for adventure riding, but it's thought to be very versatile, which means we all crash, and when we crash, we damage parts. If I have one unique tower body, it will mean that if I crash and I bend something, I'll have to replace the whole tower and it will be very expensive. Instead, on the Rebel X kit, the nice thing is that everything is modular. So if, for example, I crash and I bend this bracket with the light, I can just replace this without having to replace the whole tower. Also, the tower body is designed to be thicker so that in case of impact, these brackets will bend first, so that they are the cheapest ones to replace and also to fix when you're racing into a rally. We get the 10mm wrench, we push the bolt with our hands against the bracket and we start tightening. Once again, if you need to know the exact torque value at which we should tighten every bolt, you probably shouldn't ride motorbikes, do neither rallies or adventure riding, because you need to know by hand your torque wrench is here. You learn by trial and error. If you lose bolts, trust me, you'll remember next time to tighten it more. But I know some of you like to break my bolts. If you really want to know the torque value of every bolt, I'll do it once my new website is finished and when I'll find the time when I'm finished with all the rally bike builds.
So you're gonna be older when these values are gonna be published.
Now it's time for the LED lights. The bracket for the light has a slot and you can move it back and forwards. My advice is that you tighten it in the most forward position. You'll then be able to plug in directly the LED lights and they will work with the OEM command. My advice, do the whole wiring stuff as a last step so that you'll place all the wires only once inside the tower. It's time to place the windshield on the headlight mask. Just be aware you'll have to take off the film, at least in the section where the bolts go. On certain windshields, the film is transparent, so you might think, wow, it's not very transparent, but it's just because you have to remove it. Now I'll just remove the part where I'm gonna place the bolts. There is no need to tighten too much the bolts that connect the windshield to the headlight mask. As long as you see the bolt coming to the end, that's enough, because these rubber grommets then get wider and so there will be no risk of the bolts or the rubber grommets coming out of the headlight mask. Time to put the desus fasteners on the windshield bracket. Just push until they are in position. Now let's place the windshield with the quick fasteners. As I've noticed, I'll have to raise a bit the Roadbook bracket. That's why I left it loose and I tighten only one bolt. The first time you put these, they might be a bit difficult to put on because the desus clips are new. So you can help yourself with your hand on the back so that it clips in. The side panel is designed so that it's very difficult that you get the holes wrong. We put in position the side panel and you see we can make it match nicely since there is that bend that lets us get it in position. We'll first drill one hole and put a bolt through. It's a 6mm hole. We get our drill. Once you place the first bolt, then it will be even easier to drill the other holes. Just check everything is in position. I'll drill the lower hole instead of the middle and keep the middle for last. Once we place the 3 bolts and nuts, we will have the fairing side panel in perfect position to then drill a hole here for another desus fastener. We'll do the same on the other side and then drill the hole in the side panel. The only slightly tricky hole that you'll need to do is the 7mm hole for the desus fastener here on the radiator shroud, that it has to go through the side panel, but you don't have a lot of space to put in the desus fastener. So my advice is to put the desus fastener on the side panel and try and drill a hole from behind, maybe a small hole with a small Dremel, or I don't know, I usually drill it all the way through because I'm used to do it, but if it's the first time, you better take your time. Potentially, you can avoid using the desus fastener clip and can use just some high resistance Velcro. You will put the desus fastener in any place here on this section of the fairing side panel. Drill a first small hole, then a 7mm hole, and then you'll have to make it match with the radiator shroud and drill a hole all the way through. To help yourself not drill the wrong hole, you can drill a small hole from underneath, so that then here on the shroud we'll have the small hole and then we can drill the 7mm. Clip is on, ready to put the desus fastener, and we're ready to move on the build. The good thing of having the desus fastener in this place is that it won't collide with your leg, because your leg will be moving here, so it's out of the way. It's in an easy access and we avoid having to put an extra bracket and extra weight. But I have a small advice for you. Always put a little piece of duct tape around the desus fastener and then stick it on the panel and on the windshield, just because in case something goes wrong, we won't end up losing it. Now that the whole fairing is on the bike, we are ready to adjust the tilt angle and the height of our instrument, also based on the handguards we are running. In case we need to bring it higher, the extra brackets are included in the kit. Now I'll adjust here the height and then tighten all the bolts. Many wonder what this red bracket is for that is always included in the kit. This bracket goes in case you're not using a roadbook or after a rally you want to go adventure riding. You can put this bracket and you'll be able to either place a RAM mount or in this case, for example, a Garmin mount for your GPS, for the Garmin 276CX, Garmin Montana, or even the Trailtech Voyager Pro. But potentially with the RAM mount you can place any device, even a tablet or a smartphone. Once everything has been tightened, you still are left with this. This is the Uritrack bracket and you'll place this on these rubber mounts. Usually on adventure riding and in most rallies, this bracket is used either to carry the medical kit or the tool bag or a rain jacket, as the Uritrack is used only in Dakar and some World FIM rallies, so you can use this bracket for multiple purposes. One thing you have to be careful of is these adjusters. You'll probably have to adjust them, place them a bit wider, because all rally bikes have less steering angle than a standard enduro bike. In this case, we won't need to adjust them a lot, but slightly so that the forks won't go and touch against the nav tower. Now it's time to plug in the main power wire so that then we will wire all the navigation devices directly on the nav tower through the 6-way fuse box. To install this cable, we'll have to remove the side panel and the seat. Under the seat we have lots of wires, and sometimes accessing the battery can be a bit a pain. For this reason, with the Rebel X Sports Rally Kit, they provide this wire that's gray so that we will then easily manage to spot it out, and it also says tower, fuse box, ground, so you can't go wrong. And then you have this plug with an extra fuse that will plug in to a connector that's already on your bike. You'll have to remove this rubber, and under this rubber you will have this connector, to which we'll just plug in the power cable. We're now ready to go. The best solution is to place the wire under the fuel tank together with all the other wires that go to the front end of the bike. This will give us power only when the bike is turned on. This is, in my opinion, great in rally racing because we will never end up draining our battery for mistake because we left something on. Now that we are looking at the tower, we have the red wire that says fuse box, so you can't go wrong. We'll place it on the fuse box and then put back on the nut so that it's nice in position. The ground you can wire anywhere on the tower. As we have different holes, I like to put all the grounds of all the devices I place on the tower. I usually put this ring so that I bolt them all together in any spot here on the nav tower. In this way, thanks to the fuse box with 6 power outlets and error LED indicator, we will have 6 points where we can get our power source for any device. If we break a fuse, we'll immediately notice because we'll have a red LED light turn on. The last thing you'll have to do is put nicely the wires tucked in behind the OEM dashboard, or you can put them inside the tower, but I prefer to put them here with zip ties. For this step, take your time, drink a beer, relax, and just wire everything perfectly. Included with the Rebel X Sports Rally Kit, you also have these on-off switches with LED so that you know if you left something on. You have 3 pins, 2 power and 1 is for the ground. You can place them here on the tower in the lower bracket, and these you can decide if you want to connect them to something. Maybe here when you put the 2 USB ports and voltmeter display, you can decide to turn it on or off through one of these switches, or even the light inside the Roadbook and the Tripmaster. At the moment we placed a MIGTEC Roadbook holder and the brand new GFX Tripmaster. We'll wire everything because this bike is going to the Deus Swank rally and will take part also in other rallies this winter. This first instruction video has come to an end. Let me know if it was useful, if you want me to do other instruction video on other rally kits or on how to wire your navigation instruments. The really cool thing about this kit, and I'm proud of being part of this project, is the fact that practically with only these tools and just a couple things more, you're able to completely install the kit or also remove any of the parts. And this is very important because my friend Pierpaolo won't need to carry lots of tools while he go to Sardinia for the Deus Swank Rally. Hopefully he won't flip over the bike on some tree and won't have to do any repairing to the bike. Pierpaolo now is a happy kid, so thanks to Domitilla that spent her weekend here bringing Pierpaolo to see his bike.
But next time, I build it, right?
To prove you that it's so simple and easy to build a rally bike with the Rebel X Sports rally kits, we'll have next time Domitilla build a rally bike.
Plus, with the Rebel X Sports rally kit, I also did all the crash tests and they work pretty fine.
Yeah, so she's one of the main crash test riders of the company. This is good. Her bike is all bent, but the instruments are still working.
The instruments are the only straight thing on my bike.
Yeah. Thanks guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.
Ciao.